Psychic Focus at psychicfocus.blogspot.com, and today's topic is surrounded around Ouija boards. And I'm kind of passionate about this topic because of some own personal experiences that I'll get into later, but nonetheless I will proceed forward with a question that was asked of me, and I felt it was really important in the spirit of Halloween to do this. So the question is, apparently Ouija boards work because of a machine hidden somewhere. The sun and the moon are essential. By the sun and the moon, I mean the sun and the moon drawn on the Ouija board. But there's probably some multiple uses to a Ouija board. Number one, interdimensional communication. We all know about that. As to hauntings resulting from the use of a Ouija board, I think it's only because the spirit is now familiar with the space in which it was used. And number two, moving matter between dimensions or solid body creations. This is probably another use of a Ouija board. It is said that you're never supposed to tell a spirit to appear. Also, I read a story in which an incantation was used while a Ouija board was being used and actually made a demon appear. But is it a solid body creation or moving matter between dimensions? So there's a couple questions tied to it. In general, just wanting to know about Ouija boards, their use, and what's going on. So just in general, when I focus on the whole Ouija board topic, I want to say not to use them unless you really know what you're doing. You have to set protection. You also have to have every person that is participating in around the Ouija board during the time it's being used setting their protection and holding their space and knowing how to maintain that. If you don't have experience doing this, or if you lack any kind of a confidence surrounded around this, because you might think you know what you're doing, or maybe you do or you don't, if there's any kind of wishy-washiness internalizing regarding how to do this, if you feel naive about it, I would not recommend that anybody play with these boards. I do see that they can be effective in connecting to the other side, but the real issue comes from how they originated, because I see that a lot of dark magic is tied to Ouija boards. They were used in a lot of dark rituals during their infancy, and this became a tool of the darker forces. The PTW that I talk about, the powers that were, I see that they tried to get these dark magic tools into the hands of the public, because when people don't know what they're doing and they're conjuring up these lower vibe beings, it strengthens the forces of the lower vibe beings, both 3D and spiritually. So people are unintentionally drawing these spirits, and it makes the PTW's goals even stronger. And now that these boards are found in the gaming aisle of most stores, and kids are so intuitively open, they can be very naive playing with these, and the unintended consequence can be very negative. When you bring a spirit forward, whether they're good or bad, you're opening up that space to allow permission for it to exist. It might be stubborn, it might not want to leave, and these beings on the other side, ultimately they want to be heard, so they're going to rush an opportunity. When you have a Ouija board and you're using it, spirits see that like a beacon. It's this bright light. Hey, we have a voice, we can be heard, we can communicate. So they're all going to rush it. There's no limitation on if it's a high vibe being, if it's a low vibe being, and unless you have your space set and you are holding it strong, you're going to get hit with all kinds of entities. So ultimately, that is my take on Ouija boards. And then I just wanted to share my own personal experience, and maybe you have had an experience like this too. I was very naive, heard about Ouija boards, thought, oh wow, what a cool idea for Christmas. Put it on my Christmas list, get it, end up getting this Ouija board. And my brother and I and my neighbor, we played with it. The thing would move, and then we thought, you know, who's pushing it, who's moving it, all those type of things. And then it got to where it was scaring us because it would move so easily. We all thought that the other person was actually doing the moving of the Ouija board. Well, then it started to say really dark things, told us the name of the being that was connecting to us, also would talk about things like murder, would talk about very low vibe stuff of how they became in spirit and things that they did and all this kind of stuff. Totally scared my brother and myself and my neighbor to death. So we took the board, we threw it in the trash because we didn't even want it in the house. We didn't want anything to do with it. Next thing we know, it's sitting in our garage. So we get it and we throw it away the next week in the trash. It reappears in the garage. After going through this a few times, we ended up taking it into a field and burning it because we couldn't get rid of it. And lucky for us, nothing attached to us, nothing stayed in our home. But it took that for us to finally be free of it. And from that point forward, I always knew there was something to them. And this was way before I started down my spiritual path and started doing readings and doing my intuitive work. But I knew intuitively something is very wrong with these boards, especially in the hands of kids that don't know what they're doing. So that is my 2 cents of my personal story, just as to share my experience. So, like I said, in the spirit of Halloween, I wanted to do this topic, and also when we approach Christmas, nonetheless, they're in the most strange place in the toy aisle for children to get their hands on them. So I've always been very bothered by that, especially since my own personal encounter with them. So, and in saying that, I guess I will say goodbye. Again, I'm Lynn with Psychic Focus at psychicfocus.blogspot.com. Thank you.